your father and I weren't married and you were a semi-orphan, and they sponsored you, and we got money and food and medical care. And when you were 18 months old, you almost died. And if you weren't sponsored by somebody, you would have died.
Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guests. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of, what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. Having the show wasn't something I started out to do. But the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So, guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things. And Stacey McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. But these guys are literally taking, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, as they're protecting our lives, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys. I'm bringing you Sheryle Gillihan, and listen to her talk about her journey of finding herself a CEO of a company that was on the outs and how she was able to turn this business around, create a beautiful social enterprise that helps people on their journey. It's just fun. It's a great and wonderful, wonderful story. Hope you enjoy this one. All right, guys, so this is going to be another fun episode. I'm bringing you a dear friend of mine. It's been really fun to get to know her over the last couple of years and watch her journey and her rise to fame and just some of the really awesome things she's really done and some of the cool big give back things that she does with not only her business but with her time and everything else. So, Miss Sheryle Gillihan, welcome to the show, my dear. I'm so glad to have you. Please tell us your story.
Hi, Donnie. Glad to be here. So let's see. What would you like to know? A little bit about my background?
Yeah.
Or what I'm doing now?
A little bit about your background, then we'll lead all the way up into what you're doing.
Okay. So my background, let's see. I have a very diverse background. I went to college right out of high school, but then didn't finish college because I joined the military, saw a commercial on TV and decided that's what I want to do. I'm really influenced by marketing, by the way. But then from there, I was about 8 months pregnant when I decided, wow, I think I actually want to be a stay-at-home mom. So I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years until both of my children were in school. It was a real challenge to sort of re-enter the workforce. And it was a local entrepreneur here in Fort Worth that actually gave me a chance and gave me my start. And I rose very quickly in that company and realized that the space that we were in was not really fulfilling my purpose and sort of serving where I wanted to go with my life and my faith and everything that I stood for. So at that time, I wasn't necessarily looking, but my husband found a position for me that was like an ideal dream job. I'm still at that job today, almost 8 years now. Started off as a project manager at CauseLabs, and now I'm the CEO.
Right. So this is so fun just because I know this story. But you go from the military to the whole stay-at-home mom. You jump into this career job. Then you join this company. And you go in and you literally are pretty much at the bottom of the company as a project manager. And somehow some badassery shows up in your life and you work your way all the way up to CEO. How the hell does that happen?
You don't ask for it, for one. I mean, I didn't go in saying I would like to be CEO one day. I think humility plays a big part in actually growing, but also owning your badassness, for lack of a better word.
Love it.
Even from one of the very first interviews that I had with CauseLabs, the recruiter that was representing me said, well, I'm not going to go in there and say that you're a rock star. And I was like, wait. Hold on just a second. You better go in there and say that I'm a rock star because I'm a rock star. And they're only going to give this position to a rock star. And so just setting him straight and saying, I'm okay with saying that. I'm okay with being bold and saying I can do anything that you put in front of me and I will, sort of rise to the occasion, but also being humble about that and not necessarily looking for the raise or looking for the next job up, sort of just filling those shoes and letting them know that I'm ready for it.
So you've always kind of had this I'll just get it done vibe to you. You're not a bull in a china shop, but it's a head down, let's just push through it and figure it the hell out. As you jumped into that role, how long did it take you to go from project manager to CEO?
So I've been CEO for 1.5 years now. So I think that I had been with the company for about 6 years when they asked me to take on the CEO role.
And was it because you were willing to say yes more often than you said no?
Maybe. If I were going to say why I actually was asked to take on the position, I think it's because I played so many roles in the company and I understood the company not necessarily better than anyone else, but from all different levels so that I could be empathetic with my team. And they felt that I could actually lead this team because of the camaraderie and morale that we had with each other, and that I could get the company out of a really tough position because I was really passionate about the company. For those who haven't heard my story in the past, I actually found what I call my purpose in work at CauseLabs. I joined the company because the first project that they were hiring for was a translation project, which I did translation in the military. I was an Arabic translator, and then it was a scripture translation project, which really aligned with me from a Christian faith perspective. We were translating the Bible into rural languages. And it was one of those really interesting creative projects where I got to travel abroad and sort of be boots on the ground, hands in the mission kind of work. And in doing so, and in traveling to India and being in one of the orphanages, I felt this, I don't know what to call it, something open up inside of me, like this is what I should be doing. And I came home and I told my mother the story of what I was doing and how passionate I was about my work. And she said, did you know that you were one of those children? And I was like, I was never in an orphanage. I have you. And she said, no, you were sponsored by the Pearl S. Buck Foundation because your father and I weren't married and you were a semi-orphan, and they sponsored you and we got money and food and medical care. And when you were 18 months old, you almost died. And if you weren't sponsored by somebody, you would have died. And that just really changed my life. I mean, I'm 30 something years old at this time, and I'm hearing this story for the first time. And I feel like my life has come full circle and that I'm truly where I'm supposed to be. And so I think part of me taking on the CEO role was I was living into that story. I was sort of following the path that I needed to follow.
So what was it like hearing that for the first time? I mean, you're in India, you're helping out these orphans, and you come home to tell your mom telling you that, you were, a part of that organization as a recipient of their grace. What was it like hearing that?
It was, I don't know what the word is for it, but eye-opening, because growing up, even though I remember the stories, I didn't know that I was poor. Like, children who are poor don't know that they're poor. I only knew how much my mother loved me. And so in doing the work that we do and dealing with a lot with poverty alleviation and sort of leveraging technology to help with access and opportunity, I realized sort of how these children might be feeling. I'm not necessarily there to help change their lives because they're happy children, but I am there to offer them opportunities that they don't even know could really benefit them down the line. I was able to really put myself in their shoes and be a little bit more empathetic because I remember not having running water in our house. And I remember, eating fish and rice for most of our meals. And I remember some of these things about poverty, but not really to the extent that I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I grew up poor. Because I think some children just don't realize that.
Well, and I think that's an interesting point. My parents hate when I say this, but I say it all the time. We grew up in the lower end of middle America. And I don't want to say poor, but, our clothes definitely weren't brand new store bought ever. It was always a hand-me-down second generational stuff. But you're right. You don't necessarily as a kid embrace that whole thought process of I'm broke, I have no money. And of course I'm the youngest of three, so even though we were broke, I still got spoiled, which is always funny because my wife's the youngest of three of a very poor family, and so we fight like brother and sister because damn it, we're both supposed to always get our way. What's it like being a CEO of a company and going through this entire process to now be able to give back and help these kids out as they're going through it, being able to relate like you can? What's that like?
Well, not all of our work is related to kids, but obviously that is a near and dear part of my mission and what I believe. It's really empowering to be able to sort of affect change in that way in the world, but also it's very daunting to sort of set that vision for a company. And it can't be all about the mission and passion, even though that is like the first element of what we stand for and what we look for, and we seek alignment with our partners. But they're still, at the end of the day, running a business at the end of that so that we can continue to affect our mission.
Right.
And so sort of balancing both my passion for doing good and wanting to be all about the mission, as well as, taking care of my team and taking care of the business and dealing with the financials and the legal things. It's been more than I expected. Not that I'm complaining, but running a business is hard.
Well, and I want to talk about that because you glazed over it a little bit, and I'm not going to let it go. But when you jumped into your role as CEO, it's been sunshine and rainbows this entire ride, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely beautiful. That was actually one of the failures that I can call out. When I was asked to be the CEO, it was actually the week before I left for vacation out of the country. And I said, you realize, I'm leaving, right? The country for a week, a little over a week. Can I have some time to think about this? And it was one of those, could you make a decision as soon as possible? The board wants to know. I was asked to take over the position because the company had been failing for a couple of years, a little more than 2 years, and it was in the red, drastically so. And the debt was surmounting. And so the current CEO was leaving, and they needed to know who was going to take over and what was going to happen and whether or not the company was going to be shuttering its doors. And so I said yes, because I believe so much in the company and I believe in my team and their talent, and I love all of our clients. But I didn't do any due diligence on my part. Now that I'm in the position of running the business, I do due diligence on everything. But I didn't look at the financials, and I didn't know what the true state of the company was. And when I got back, I had a big, oh shit moment. Can I say that on your show?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. No, you should never fucking cuss ever.
And I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. Not only have I never been a CEO before, I had never been in the depths of the financial and legal state that I need to sort of dig into to get us out of that hole.
I remember the phone call. You called me up and we go meet at a Starbucks to talk about you taking over this role, and you're laying out this shit pile that you're walking into, and I'm like, oh shit, girl, you're in it now. But it's been a year and a half. How's the company now?
The company is great. We're stable. We're profitable. We've been profitable for, I think, 3 or 4 quarters now. We're digging out of the hole that debt is, and I've got the same team that was with me when we really started this journey, and I trust every single one of them, and I think they've really helped me get through this.
Yeah.
I could not have done this without the team that I have, and really without the partners that we have. You know, our clients, which we call partners, are phenomenal. And there were a few of them that I said, you know, this is the situation and this is how you can help. And we would love to continue to do this great work with you, but this is what we need to sort of be stable and continue to be partners on this. And we had some really great partners step up, and we offered them some great opportunities and great deals to allow us to sort of get back on our feet. We really just couldn't have done it without them.
I mean, that shows 2 awesome things. One, tenacity on your part to find out what the shitstorm was and then still jump in and run. Freaking good on you. Secondary, it shows how badass of a leader you've become by being able to keep these partners, these teammates, everything else, and completely reverse this company around. You should be very proud of yourself. So well done. Well done. Transitioning a little bit. Talk to me about the KERNEL project. How did that all get started? What is the KERNEL project? We'll go there too. But walk us through how you got involved with all that, and then we'll come back and talk about your company some more.
Sure. So KERNEL is United Way of Tarrant County's social innovation seed fund. What they recognized is that there were great ideas out there that could really move the needle in some of the challenges that Tarrant County is facing, but they don't necessarily have the metrics, the traction, the history, the beneficiaries yet to be able to apply for and win a traditional United Way grant. So they wanted to open the door to some of these really innovative ideas that can create real lasting change. And they started it in 2016. I found out about it sort of midway through the 2017 cycle and said I would love to volunteer. And when I showed up for the meeting that they invited me to, I realized it was an official committee meeting. And, oh, by the way, you're now on the committee. Welcome. We love you. Then I was like, oh, wow. And I think part of that was maybe my connection to the entrepreneurship space, as well as just I'm very vocal about social entrepreneurship and social impact in everything that I do and everywhere that I go. Even when I'm talking to a small business owner or any local, entrepreneur, I'm like, that's wonderful. What a great idea. How is that going to change our community? How is that going to help? So I'm very vocal about that. And so I think that invitation was the fact that I live into the fact that CauseLabs is a social enterprise. and that we are looking for positive impact in the world. Everything that I do and everything that I'm involved in the community has an element of that to it. And so last year was a very active volunteer. I sought out our mentors for that community.
You had one mentor that was just awesome last year. I mean, just
he rocked it. Yes, Donnie, you were awesome. And your team actually won a prize last year.
I know. I didn't tell people I'm more than just good looks and charm.
I had so much fun being a part of that program and wanted to continue. This year, United Way actually asked if they could hire CauseLabs to sort of supplement the work that was being done with KERNEL, partly, again, because I think we understand the social enterprise space, being a social enterprise ourselves, and really understand a different segment that United Way isn't necessarily a part of, and that is the for-profit social enterprise space.
Yeah.
They're very aware of the nonprofit side.
Yeah. Let me add a little bit to the KERNEL project so our listeners really fully understand this. So really what it is there's a bunch of nonprofits around town that would traditionally go to the United Way. United Way would lend out money to these nonprofits. Well, each one of these nonprofits are coming to the table with a particular project or idea or something that they're trying to use their brand and name to develop something, but as Sheryle said, it doesn't fit the traditional lending models of United Way. So, for instance, one group that came to the table that I helped out with was, providing room makeovers for, unfortunately, abused children that oftentimes found themselves, because of their financial situation, back into the setting where the abuse took place because their family couldn't afford to move or whatever else. So they were creating a division inside of their nonprofit, which, goes after these predators and protects these kids, in that situation, but they didn't want these kids to go back into this same environment. So gratefully they won $10,000 as part of that to be able to really keep this program up and running. Another one was providing a incubator entrepreneur program for homeless women, to come in. There was another one that was starting their nonprofit. So it was just a really cool things that did a couple of things. One, it got exposures for these nonprofits because I hadn't heard of any of these nonprofits prior to the starting. And now I've been involved with the one I've, helped coach along and win money, by the way, through the process and, got exposed to all these other programs. So it's a really, really cool thing. And then they do a full kind of Shark Tank pitch at the end of the whole program to not only win a cash prize from United Way and some other sponsors, but to also find potential outside investors that may come to the event as well. So it's a really, really cool thing. And I could say I don't think it would have went off like it did if you weren't at the helm pushing this thing all the way through to wrangle guys like me to come in and help with the mentor projects and everything else, because it takes a strong leader to deal with a bunch of bulls in a china shop like I am. So good on you. What are you doing with CauseLabs in that now? I mean, are you guys completely taking it over, or what's that look like?
Reviewing the policies and how we can grow KERNEL, and taking a look at things, like I said, that United Way maybe wasn't taking a look at in the past. There are opportunities for for-profit social enterprises, those that are definitely mission first, but have some sort of revenue model so that they can sustain their business, have an opportunity to apply for KERNEL this year as well.
Nice.
Whereas in the past, they were required to be a 501c3, but now any idea can essentially come to the table. This is truly intended as seed funding. And hopefully by winning this funding, you can either find other investments or you can create a model that has some sort of revenue that allows you to continue to sustain this program.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, and then you recently, I think, was it the Dallas 40 Under 40 you just got?
I did, with the Dallas Business Journal.
Right. Congratulations on that. So, guys, what I'm trying to point out with her is this is the most humble person on the face of the earth that has done some phenomenal badass things, that refuses to ever brag about herself, so I've got to do it for her. All of this. So, where are you taking the company? You've done all these cool things. You've done these social enterprises. Where are you going with that? And then from there, we're going to pick on you and your husband and how you guys manage all the things you guys do.
So it's hard for me to answer the question of where am I taking the company right now. I'm actually doing a team summit very soon in the next couple of months so that we can figure that out. As a technology company, we have to continue to evolve. We can't keep doing business the way we've always been doing business because technology is evolving at such a fast pace. So we have to be not necessarily on the cutting edge because people that we serve don't always have access to that and don't always need that. Can't always afford that, but we do have to be aware and mindful of the trends in technology and how that can help and how that can be beneficial. And we also have to look at the unintended consequences that come from utilizing technology and trusting the data too much to be automated and keeping that human element as a part of every program that we create as well.
Nice. Now, what does your husband do for a living?
He is my competitor.
All right.
No, we work together a lot.
That was well played. No, that was awesome. So, but I mean, in a sense, he really is your competitor. I'll let you walk us through it because that was just perfect.
My husband is the founder of PurposeWP, and they really help nonprofits grow from where they're at through their digital presence, mostly through website work, but also some consulting services, and really helping them with their online presence because it's their digital business card and it's the first thing that people see about them. But sometimes nonprofits don't necessarily put their digital presence on the forefront or even as a line item on their budget. And so helping them understand that they can really grow their online donations, grow their volunteers, grow their programming and their impact through their online presence.
Nice. So think about this, guys. You run your business all day long. You've turned a company around. You've made some money. You've saved this company, this, that, and the other. And then every night you get to go home and talk to your competition. So how in the hell do you guys maintain a relationship, both being CEOs of your company, and yeah, you guys are competition, but not really. You guys do, I know, work a lot together. But how the hell do you guys maintain some sense of your relationship, some sense of craziness, because you guys have kids as well, and how do you do it?
If we had tried to do this when we were in our 20s and we were newly married, I don't think we would be able to do it. But we're going on 20 years this year, and our children are teenagers. One is going on 16 and the other one is 18. So that helps a lot because they don't need a lot of hands-on from us anymore if they even want us around.
Right. Well, every once in a while you got to step in and go, what the fuck were you thinking? And other than that,
And so I think the stage that we're in, both in our life and in our marriage, has been ideal for this kind of scenario. We've gone through a lot together already. And so we have sort of the wisdom of how to get through those things together as a husband and wife, but also to sort of carry that over into our businesses and give each other sound advice, or maybe even just listen to each other vent sometimes and not necessarily be too critical about that, because those are things that just happen, and it doesn't necessarily mean we feel negative about our businesses or where we're going with it, but we have to vent sometimes. But the other thing is that we do everything together. For those of you that have seen us around and that know us really well, we're just kind of known as the Gillihans. Oh, the Gillihans are here. We go to networking events together. We go to happy hours together. We go to meetups together. We're in the same space. We both work with social good organizations. We both work with technology. And so we're sort of both on the same wavelength, even though he's more of a developer in the sense of code developer, and I'm more of a developer in the sense of business development and partnership development. And so we have two different, very distinct roles in how we interact with people, but we're in the same space. And so it's easy for us to go to everything together.
Well, what's interesting is, Elizabeth and I could never work together. I mean, God love her. She is so, everything has like a procedure process, I'm like, fuck the rules, and we know without a shadow of a doubt, there is no way in hell we could ever work together. Still love each other to death, but we just know, no. And there's times her and I just want to talk, not talk about work, not talk about, anything else. I can't imagine that you guys can't struggle every once in a while turning off the business talk and just having regular conversations. How does that go?
Oh, I was speaking to a group in Dallas not too long ago, and I told them the reason it works is because I bring my whole self to everything that I do. And I think my husband, Michael, brings his whole self to everything that he does too. And the fact that we're working with things that are very aligned with who we are and our values and our mission, it doesn't feel like work and it doesn't feel like business talk, because we're not talking about like, how do we rewrite this code or push these pixels? We're talking about like, how do we help this organization that's helping grieving children bring in more donations so that they can serve these children for free? I mean, and that's not your typical everyday, like, let's talk about the business pipeline, and the processes. That is real conversations about how do we affect change in our community, and those are things that we care about. So it's not, it doesn't feel like work, and it's not unaligned with who we are as a couple either.
No, that's awesome, because it's almost like insider secrets. I mean, yes, you guys are competition, but you guys also get that same conversation of, hey, this is what we just did with our company and really helped it out. Maybe you guys can use it over there. So I'm sure those type of conversations go on. But do you guys ever get to that spot where you're like, okay, let's just shut up about company. Let's shut up about our businesses, or is it always just free flowing?
Oh, I mean, it's always just free flowing, I think, for us. I mean, I don't think we've ever had that moment of like, let's shut up about this. But I do think that there are times when we both try to at least turn off some. So, for example, if I'm on vacation, I have a really hard time actually not checking my email. And so he's very good about saying, you know what, your phone is off limits. That you can access on your phone. We're going to go whitewater rafting and your phone's not going to be allowed to come. and so that's good that, he can help me find that balance. He's a lot better about putting that down than I am. I'm a different kind of personality. You talk about how you and your wife are very different. Sounds like you're good complements for one another. She can get things done in a way that you can't. And I think Michael and I are the same way.
Yeah, which is, a good lesson outside of the business, for your relationships, is go find somebody that complements you. Don't marry the same person, because it very rarely works. Find somebody that fills in the gaps that you need in your life, and that's good for businesses as well. Go find a career that, you can fill in the gaps for the things they're looking for. So I know you're into a ton of things and you do all kinds of stuff. I don't know how sometimes you find the hours in the day. How do you time manage so well and, still get peaceful sleep at night? I mean, it's how do you do it all?
Well, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. So even like meditation time is on my calendar. But I do a lot in the community. And like I said, Michael and I go to happy hours and meetups and networking events together all the time. For us, because we're also married, we just say, well, if nobody talks to us or if there's no interesting conversation and nothing comes out of this, we treat this like a date night. So every time we go to a networking event or happy hour, it's date night for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. My wife's a complete introvert. I take her out to events. She goes home. She's plumb wore out. Exhausted. She would much rather to stay home and lay on the couch. And not that she's lazy. It's just she loves people. she's just not the social person. It takes a lot of energy for her to pull it off. So it's a really cool, neat trick that you guys can go out and do it together, because that's a talent that not every relationship gets. So that's awesome. Do you ever run up against it where you guys are out networking and you meet the ideal client and there's a coin toss between which company gets it?
We usually work together on those things. And you say that, it's like sharing trade secrets, but it's not, because neither one of us really look at each other as competition. And even the other agencies out there that should be competition for CauseLabs, we don't view them as competition either. We believe in this sort of abundant mindset and the spirit of co-opetition, I guess.
I love it.
And there are projects that we work on together with agencies that this should be our competition, but we're doing great things in the world. And so, whoever can get it done the best, or on a specific timeline, or for a specific budget, let's just make it happen.
Well, and God, I want everybody to embrace that, because it's one of the things that saved my ass through a lot of my sales career, which is there is no competition out there ever. Because nobody can do what you do. Nobody can do it the way you do it. And there's so much business to be had. There's so much, things out there. If you're worried about what the competition's doing, you're dead. You're done. You're over. You have to go in it and play your damn game. And what I think hurts a lot of people from a business development standpoint is because they don't know how to get business. When competition comes to the table, they freak out because that's the only person in their pipeline, because they don't know how to actually go out and sell and get new business. They get hung up and then they destroy everything because they're hardcore closing and selling versus building relationships out there because they're worried about the competition. So great message. Great message. So what's next for you? I mean, you've got so many things going on. You're a successful business. You're helping all these nonprofits. You're flipping everywhere. What's next? I mean, are you going for president of the U.S.? I mean,
I wasn't born in the United States, so I don't think I can qualify for president of the United States unless we change our rules. And honestly, I don't know that that's a job that I would want.
Well, the one thing I always love pointing out is every president that goes in may have dark hair before they go in, but they're gray as fuck by the time they're done. I don't want that job,
I don't know yet what's next. I think that it's been 1.5 years that I've been CEO at CauseLabs. I mean, I think there is some sort of succession planning that happens there, just because I spoke with a respected mentor of mine when I first took on the position, and I said, how long should someone stay as CEO? And I know everybody has a different opinion about this. She said, well, after about 7 years, you probably lose your effectiveness because you become complacent.
You become institutionalized.
And so I think that's always been on my mind of there is a sort of ticking clock out there, my effectiveness at a company, and knowing that while I may love it and I may be good at it, I may not always be the best at it, and things evolve and things change, and there's a point where I'm no longer the best for that particular position. And so right now I'm enjoying where I'm at, but I definitely know that there is, sort of a different plan that we'll be looking for down the line.
That's so awesome. Well, girl, I got to tell you, it's been fun having you on the show and getting you, because I've been chasing you for a little while to get your ass on here. I'm glad I finally was able to pull it off. Is there any advice you want to leave my listeners? It's fun. I'm in 42 countries right now with the podcast, and it's just growing like crazy. I'm having a blast doing this, and they range from business owners to entrepreneurs to a lot of veterans I get in here all the time. And I didn't even pick on you being an Army person very much, so you got off easy on that one, because us Marines are the best always. But any advice you want to give? Well, then fine, I will pick on you. You know what Army stands for?
No. No.
Any advice you want to put out there to give my listeners as they're going on their journey and walking through life?
Well, I think regardless of how old you are or where you're at or where you came from, I think my story is sort of a testament to the fact that none of those things matter for success. You just have to believe that you can actually succeed and want to make a difference. I came from poverty, and I've seen other people who came from really challenging situations. I sort of got lucky in the fact that my father was an airman, and I did get the chance to come to the United States, and that changed my life. But there are a lot of other opportunities out there that can open a door that you weren't expecting. Just grab hold of it and be bold.
Love it. I love it. Grab hold of it and be bold. We're going to get that put on a T-shirt for you. That'll be the phrase. Well, girl, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. I really appreciate it. It's fun to watch, especially since I was a part of the conversations early on when you took over for CauseLabs, and see what you've done with it. Well done. Well done. You know, keep kicking ass and keep taking names and keep running your crazy-ass life and keep doing all your things you're doing to give back. It's just awesome.
Thank you for having me on the show, Donnie.
You're welcome. You know what, guys? Really, thank you for listening to this episode. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun putting these together. I wanted to make sure before we get out of here that you knew what we were doing with social content. What we found was because of the podcast, we have a unique way of helping you get your social content out on a very easy way. What we're doing is we're interviewing people, and from that interview, we will capture a lot of information that will then be turned into videos, memes, articles, all things you can use for your social content. I know, like for me, one of the biggest struggles I had was, what do I put out there? What do I say on a regular basis? Well, we'll help do all that for you. So if this is at all of interest to you, reach out to us and let us help you grow your social media channel. I can tell you I did this for my business, and my social media is completely taking off. My Instagram, since I started doing this, jumped to over 10,000 followers, and it continues to grow. So if this is at all of interest to you, check the bottom of the show notes for the link that says, "Get my social content done" right now.